All right, guys, it's time. It's that time on Sunday morning when we talk tax expenditures. Jared Bernstein, you have stalled the sequester with tax expenditures.
Correct.
Explain.
The reason tax expenditures are the solution to the sequester is because tax expenditures are how we spend through the tax code. So if you're a Republican who thinks we have a spending problem, and lots of them say they do, you want to cut these tax expenditures because they're just like spending. On the other hand, they generate a lot of revenue. So if you're a Democrat who wants revenue in the deal, you like them too.
And Marty Feldstein, Republican,
former chief economist for
Reagan has said it's a good thing to go after. Let me give you a perfect example. Can you throw up the graph just to give people a sense of how big these tax expenditures are? Over $1 trillion a year, which is more than we spend on Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, not defense discretionary, non-defense discretionary. So a huge amount of money. Here's a perfect example. There's a $5,000 dependent child care tax credit. Okay, that $5,000 dependent child care tax credit I use, right? They withhold the money from my salary at the end of the year. I use that $5,000 to pay the person that provides child care for my daughter, and then I take that off my taxes, right? Now, if you're paying the highest marginal rate, the value of that $5,000 is $2,000. Basically, the government writes me, cable TV host, a check for $2,000 for this child care. Of course, if you're paying the lowest marginal rate, right, then the value of that is much lower. So it is upside down in terms of progressivity.
Well,
right?
And the value of that is much lower, but that's actually this example. Excuse me, the example you want to use. Someone who has a much lower income bracket is actually the one getting the check written to them. You call it a tax expender. It's a refundable tax credit is what it is. So if you're in this higher income bracket, you're getting money back from your tax liability. If you don't have a tax liability, that's where the spending side comes in.
Two things. First of all,
wait, let me just a conceptual question, right? Because what you're saying is if I owe $40,000 in taxes, and after this I owe $38,000, you're saying the government's not writing me a $2,000 check. But of course they are writing me a $2,000 check. Because in the absence of that,
you left out an important part of the story. You told the tax credit side of how we support child care for higher income people. There's also a spending program, a child care subsidy, which we spend through general revenue.
Right, direct checks.
The government spends this. There is no substantive difference. That's why cutting tax expenditures are cutting spending through the tax.
And yet here's the big difference. For people, working class people and poor people who are getting direct government subsidies, that has to be passed through the appropriations process every year. It's subject to the sequester. It's very vulnerable. And the tax credit is part of the tax code. Every year it just goes on in perpetuity.
And Jared put it right in his article about this. That's the real entitlement. The fact that it's baked into the tax code means it is almost by definition an entitlement. If you qualify, you're entitled to it.
But Mattie, are you okay with this? Do you agree that this is a solution to cut tax expenditures?
Yeah, and the interesting point, the interesting perspective for me, from you guys arguing that we need to, we were so close, Jared, we were so close. But the interesting perspective for me is that, again, if you are writing a check to someone who doesn't have an income tax liability, who's getting money back from the government under this program, if you're cutting that,
I don't want to cut that.
This is regressive.
I don't want to cut that.
No, he doesn't want to cut the earned income tax credit.
I don't want to cut that.
We're talking about deductions.
I'm not saying we should cut every tax expenditure. There are good spending programs. There are good tax expenditure programs. The ones you're talking about, refundable credits to low-income people, are essential. But cut capital gains special privileges and dividend special privileges, can we agree on that? That those should be cut. That those tax expenditures...
We want you to make ATR policy right here at the table on MSNBC.
That tax expenditures that favor capital gains, dividends, that protect interest payments, that have the Cayman Island stuff, do you agree that those should be cut in the interest of some kind of...
In the interest and context of comprehensive tax reform, right? That's the space we want to use to actually get a fairer tax code, to get a flatter tax code.
I think she said yes.
That's yes-ish. I want to thank MSNBC contributor Jared Bernstein, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, Stephanie Kelton, the University of Missouri, Kansas City. All right, the less political jiu-jitsu after this.